pillow snack. Here, how much was it? $4. Got a whole bag. Yeah.
Study session. Again, good evening and welcome to the Fort Smith City Board of Directors study session on this August 12th of the year 2025. Keep in mind these meetings are being televised live for our residents who cannot attend with us in person. So with that, we will go directly to the first item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, before we get into the agenda, if I may, so looking at the pending list for next week, the city clerk brought this to my attention. Under executive session, we have a performance evaluation for the acting city administrator that we denoted at the June 3rd meeting, and we stated an intent to conduct. I guess she was wanting, we need to formally place that on the agenda. I guess that was informally placed. So if there's two of us who wish to see that happen at next week's meeting, the two of us need to denote that so that it can be formally placed.
Second.
Okay, we need someone else. We need at least two. We got it? Okay, thank you.
Is that sufficient?
You got it.
Thanks,
Okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Rigo. Okay, item number 1.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's first topic is the discussion of city-owned properties that could potentially be sold. The communications team, thanks Josh, has put together this booklet that I've distributed to your places this evening, summarizing the details of 18 properties that were identified from the June 10th study session discussion as property for which the city has no current plans or use. Specifically, the properties include 5 properties noted as most marketable and most likely to sell or attract interest. These properties include the 18-acre Mazard Business Park property and the former Boast property on South 74th Street. 4 properties that the city could sell, but probably the best use is likely to the adjacent property owners. These properties are likely remnants of prior city projects and makes some sense to combine them with the adjacent properties rather than the city to maintain ownership. Then 9 properties that the city acquired through the residential buyout program. The structures on these properties were prone to flooding, so the structures were purchased and removed. Conveying these properties should carry deed restrictions prohibiting new structures. With that, I'll turn the discussion to the board.
Okay, thank you very much. This time we'll go to Director Rigo.
Thank you, and thanks for this booklet getting put together. I got a couple a question and a statement. So, Jeff, when we see the ones that are in red, the flood residence buyout programs, they're all formerly flooded structures in residential areas. It says the staff recommends sale of the property with deed restrictions, no structures. I mean, what is even a? I maybe have some ignorance here, but what's a theoretical use that someone would have for this that would make it an attractive thing on the market?
That is a good question. And others that we've done this with have been in proximity to churches. They've bought them for use as parking lots and such. But if a structure goes back on there, if it's not built up or somehow mitigated for the flooding concerns, then any structure would likely flood as well. And so we don't want to create a problem that we have removed, and so that's the reason for doing that. I mean, open space, green space, additional space to the adjacent property owners might make it attractive, but other than that, the city doesn't have an intended use for them.
Okay, and then on page 6, I guess in the orange category, the less than an acre plot there with the Malibu Church structure. I think that's an important historic structure on the north side of town, and I wouldn't personally be in favor of having that one be for sale.
Understood.
Thank you.
Director Settle.
Thank you. Back to Jared's point on the red properties. So all 3 are grouped together. There's the 3 properties. Other places have mitigated flood control by putting their property on stilts. It sounds crazy, but if you go into the ocean areas, they're up above and they park underneath. Would that be something that could be viable in this area?
It possibly could, but still, we would want to do something with any potential buyer concerning their intended use for doing something like that. We would want to specifically recognize that requirement and probably make some considerations that these properties were purchased for mitigating flood damage. We likely would want to include some protective language in that transaction.
In the green area, I got two comments. The Texas Road, I would like you to talk to the school district. Kavanaugh is a very busy school, and parking's a premium in that area. And so maybe this would be a great opportunity to work with Kavanaugh School and the school system to see if this property would work for them for parking in that area, because the schools are next to it, and I think that would alleviate some parking concerns they have there. The last one is 1801 74th Street. I think that was deeded to us by Methodist Village. I think we should deed it back to them and then be out of that building completely.
Okay. Thank you, Director Settle. Director Christina Savage.
So, in the agenda packet for the 7700 Texas Road, it said recommended deed to adjacent landowner, and in this packet it says recommended for sale.
Yeah, there was a error in the one that was included in the packet. That's been updated for this summary in this booklet.
The problem I would have with deeding anything to an adjacent landowner is in the past we have forced adjacent landowners to buy things, to put in bids. So like, for example, on Garrison, that is less than 10,000 square feet, remnant parcel, that's next to the state parking lot. I think it has 17 parking spaces. I think they paid like $150,000 for that. There were multiple bids on it. We didn't just deed that to anybody. So I don't think that needs to be our policy going forward if we've asked people to put in bids and pay for things, even if they're the only ones it's useful to. That's something I think I would have a problem with. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I don't know that we necessarily need to be deeding anything to anybody. They can put in a bid.
No, I agree, and there is a process in our municipal code that we have to follow, and that's the one you referenced that we used earlier, that we still would go through that process to notify adjacent property owners and property owners in the vicinity of our intent to sell a piece of property.
So also for the flood buyout properties, with the Edinburgh Drive, that's not really in a floodplain. I remember when that happened, it was a drainage ditch that was full, wasn't it? That had some debris in it that caused the flooding?
Well, the drainage ditch behind those properties, not just that it was full, but it was undersized to carry the water that flows through there. So it did end up backing up into the yards and in the homes.
So if we were to sell those, could we remove the deed restriction if we were to right-size that drainage behind it? Would that be more cost-effective?
Well,
could we get more out of those properties?
The reason for purchasing the homes in the first place, it was more cost-effective to purchase the homes than to make the improvement to the ditch.
So it was more cost-effective to buy 3 houses than it was to improve the ditch?
To improve that storm system, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Director Neil Martin, and then Director George Kasavage.
Yeah, so how do we go about selling these things? We've got this docket, this glossy.
Like I said, we have a. I mean, if the board agrees to all of them, I know there's been some exceptions to some of them, but we can proceed with our codified process for notifying the public that these properties are for sale and inviting bids for them. We don't have provision for just in our code for just listing them, like listing a potential property with a real estate company, right, for instance, to market it for sale. But I think once we go through the statutory process, if we don't get acceptable, suitable bids for those, then I think we can go through that process after that.
Okay, and I know some of these properties were purchased with general fund dollars. Some of them were purchased via the either federal grant dollars or our residents buyout program. So if we sell it, let's say we sell the Mazard Road property, that's all general fund dollars, right?
Yes.
Okay. So But if we sold an Edinburgh property, which was either grant dollars or
Streets
that would go
drainage.
back. That would go back to that. Okay,
Yes.
go back to that. Okay. I mean, I think the importance for me was to get money back in the general fund as quickly as possible. Not as quickly as possible, but not. I don't want to give away the property.
Sure.
That Mazarn property's one with high value, so I'd want to make sure that we're getting fair market value for it, if not more, and get that back in the general fund as quick as we can to ease some of those pressures on the general fund that we've talked about as a group.
Director George Kasavage.
Jeff, who actually from the city is going to do the negotiation for the property with the buyer?
Well, likely it would be administration or the city attorney.
Do you think it would be better just to turn this over to a realtor and let him sell it?
Possibly, yes. I mean, I think we have to go through our codified process. If we don't get a suitable result from that, then I think, yes, we will list with the real estate agent.
And who's going to appraise the property? You're going to have an appraisal, so we know it.
Many of them, some of them we have appraisals on already. Some of them we've owned for a long time and don't have a current appraisal.
Yeah, Director Settle, why was the Bose property deeded to the city?
In 1966, and this was all around Memorial Day of 1966, the Methodist Village donated that parcel to the city in the last week of May, and then a week later, the city deeded that property to Boast for the intended use as a school. And then it was vacant property at the time. Boast took ownership of that property and built their buildings on there, and were there for 58 years until last year when they ceased operations there, which enacted the reversion clause that was in that deed so that it reverted to the ownership of the city.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Director Kemp.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few items just listening to us tonight. My goals for this were to decrease the maintenance cost, things that we're having to take care of mowing-wise for the city, and replenish our funds, as you all have shared as well. A few items here, I guess. One is, can administration further explain, when we talk about on this property on page 3 for 74th Street, and we recommend deeding to adjacent landowner, but we're saying we're going to make them bid on said property to have that deeded back to them? Could you tell
What?
the Boast building? I mean, when we're deeding something back, but we're going to still ask them to buy it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, in this one, I mean, the adjacent property owner is Methodist Village, the entity that originally donated it to the city in 1966. So that's why that's listed that way.
But if, like, say, are you saying that if Mercy Hospital wanted to buy that slot, are we allowing people to bid on it, or are we deeding it back to the original landowner?
That would be the decision for the board to make. If our intent was to get it to Methodist Village to do their project on, then we would take steps to make sure that we could do that.
Yeah, because I just don't understand. I felt like I heard that they're going to have to bid to get it back.
If we go through our regular process where we deem a piece of property excess for sale, then we have a process we have to go through, and then that would require property owners to make bids on the properties we have for sale.
I just think we got to be clear here. I mean, if we're deeding it back, then that sounds to me like we're giving it back because it was given to us.
I think the question there is, do we do that transaction for a nominal fee? I mean,
Okay, I see. Okay, the other one is on the Edinburgh properties, just from the residents that I've heard as well around that Edinburgh area, and one backyard that I even witnessed myself, I think we do need to consider that drainage for what it's worth being considered to be resized. There are other residents that have communicated with me about flooding in their backyard. So I don't think we may need to address our drainage there. I just want to make that on note. And then the second thing would be, I'm all for selling it, but I am kind of thinking we have to think about that value, because when I've driven by that, you have one house kind of on the corner, and then there'd just be this, I guess, really large side yard, because I can't imagine who else is going to buy it to be able to do nothing besides either this neighbor or the other neighbor on the far side of it. But if you were to improve it and benefit other residents who are dealing with water issues in this area, then you may also be able to do something with these lots and put a home back on it, even if it was on a stilt, as Director Settles mentioned. And then I agree with staff on page 6 for 800 North 9th Street. The only reason I recommend selling would be that there have been some homes over there and some revitalization on some of these streets. And perhaps if we were to put a restriction on that historic structure, but if there was a builder that could do something unique around that structure, but still retaining it, I mean, I think the game of this for me is less things to deal with. And the more we maintain it, then we're always going to be on the hook to maintain it. And also, I think it could bring good value if there was a builder that wanted to work with it. That's just my thoughts. But at least obviously put the restriction. Every time I've driven by this, I think it's beautiful. So if that's not possible, then I guess you could retain it. But if there was a way to bring a developer around it, that might be a way of memorializing it in a good, appropriate fashion. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Director Rigo.
Thanks, Mayor. So I just want to tease this process out a little bit more, Jeff. So, say we decide, hey, let's take a run at selling all these things. I'm personally speculative about the market that's going to be there for the things in the orange and in the red, but, hey, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. So then that would trigger some sort of vote we would take to list items for sale or to engage a process that would get fresh appraisals on things that, have not been appraised within, a reasonably recent time. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so then how long, like look on page 7, the less division in North T Street, the less than 1 acre triangle zone C5 not able to develop. Is there, when you put something for sale, is there a sense, or have you reflected upon how long you wish to leave something for sale? What's the, is it just sort of for sale forever? Is there going to be a marketing or effort made to, highlight to people, hey, these parcels across the community are for sale. Please call, 1-800-Fort-Smith and talk to us about this. Or is this just kind of a passive, hey, if people call, they call, and if they don't, they don't? What's kind of the thoughts that you've had?
I think that, and regardless of how many or whatever the mix is of ones we decide to move ahead with, yes, we either have a recent appraisal or we get an appraisal, and then we offer those to the public for sale. We do the public notification, which goes in newspaper and those sorts of things. We do the adjacent property owners notification, and we go through that process to invite bids for those properties. If we get bids, and we can either, the board could either choose to accept a bid or we could reject them because we don't get enough bids to match the appraisal.
Do the bids happen in like a single auction?
Yes,
type
that's
format?
a sealed bid process. We give a date by which you submit your sealed bid, and they'll be opened at a particular time or whatnot. And then we can, if we don't get a bid that's equal to an appraised value, we can reject those. And then I think after that process, then we can offer them to the market through a real estate agent to help us sell them.
Okay.
Thank you. One last thing I would say is if we would eventually get to a point where we would have to enlist real estate services on some of these properties, I think it would be wise where we would have to then consider what's that cost balance of, okay, what's the maintenance cost on some of these very, very small parcels versus the costs we would pay to have them go through the real estate process.
Yes,
Thank
agreed.
Okay, thank you. Director Christina Savage.
When we were first talking about this, I was imagining some higher value properties. I know we talked about breaking off the frontage along Old Greenwood Road, and I'm not seeing that anywhere in here. Is there any process that's going through right now?
That is still going through its master planning process. We haven't identified how deep or big those lots would be, but I think that still is in the future if we identify those or to either be sold or leased by the city.
The Mazard Road property, the 4401 Mazard Road, could we get an updated appraisal for that? I mean, I know we've only had it about a year, but I thought the appraisal had come in a little low initially.
I'm aware that we have one. I don't remember how old it is, but we can see.
Because I think it was for about $900,000.
That's correct.
I think that property is probably worth more than that. Also, I just wanted to clarify my comments about not deeding things. That was limited to the remnant properties. Methodist Village was not intended in my comments. I think that's something we'd have to have a bigger discussion about, because I think that's treating that a little bit different since they had initially deeded it to us.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments from the board? I would urge you to consider the Methodist Village property, us deeding it back to them. I think they have some amazing plans for the property if they can acquire it in a good, reasonable way. So, anything else? Okay, thank you. We will go to item number 2.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is a discussion requested by the board regarding the concept of a 360-degree review of all City of Fort Smith departments. I'm not familiar with an evaluation tool for an entire department, but I focused on the staff memorandum on a professional development tool for individuals such as department heads, and with that, I'll turn this to the board for further discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. Director Kemp, you recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I went ahead and gave this to Josh earlier to throw up on the screen, and then prepared a printout for the directors to look at. Since I brought this up, I just thought I would throw this out as a discussion piece. Obviously, we can go any direction we wanted, but instead of thinking of a paid service for a 360 review, which there are definite good paid services you could do this, the limited number of department heads we have, because I'm thinking of city administrator, deputy city administrator, and department heads, we could use Google Forms, and then taking the same format, going through it with a section 1, identifying who we're talking about, then going through core behaviors, leadership expectations, and they would pick a rating from 1 to 5, goal-oriented feedback with open-ended questions, and then a self-assessment section. For me, what this was, in case, I know we all have heard this term, but I think it's important that the department head leaders send a survey to every employee underneath them. In the first quarter of the year, they're given a written evaluation from their department leader in January, February, March. What I'm proposing is in that target range of June, somewhere in the year, after that period, we allow an opportunity for those department head leaders to receive a 360 review. And I'm thinking of leadership that's below them giving feedback, leadership that's beside them, other department heads, a sampling, giving feedback, and then from the city administrator, and then allowing the city directors to receive an email or a public presentation. I'm open to either of the feedback that we've gathered from these 360 reviews. One thing that was of concern for me coming in, because I came in during a transition of a city administrator, is I've had department people speak with me and voice maybe a concern that they had, but at the time they didn't really voice. I would like this to be a great space to improve what we're doing as a team and as a city of Fort Smith, and through this process allow a culture of reflection and tune-up as we have an opportunity, and those tweaks take you to the peaks, so to speak. So this is just a rough shot of an idea. It would cost taxpayers $0, could be administered by the Human Resource Department. And I want to clarify, I'm not talking about the entire staff being analyzed in this way. The department heads and the city administration would be done this way. And this is a process that could map out how that could be done. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any discussions on the idea proposed by Director Kemp? Okay. Okay. Director Neil
I
Martin.
mean, I would be open to that. Being able to see some of that feedback, I think would be helpful for the board and inform us in maybe ways that we may not see.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other discussion on this particular item? Okay, seeing none, we will go directly to number 3.
Item 3 this evening, the police department has been exploring the use of a lease program for its vehicle fleet. As budget preparation season is coming upon us, Chief Baker has asked for this opportunity to address this topic with the board. The city last discussed a leasing program for city vehicles in 2017. We have a presentation ready for you this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Board, City Administrator. I appreciate you giving us this opportunity. I know it's kind of shoved in here last minute. You've got a special meeting afterwards, so I'm going to try to be brief, but it was important for us to get this in front of you ASAP as we're in the middle of the 2026 budget process. And I really think there's an opportunity here for us to make some good changes in the way that we manage our capital expenses and specifically our vehicle expenses within the police department. I believe this fleet leasing program is going to permanently, if you allow us to do it, put an end to our constant vehicle woes. We're proposing, the way that we're going to propose to finance it will have little to no increase impact on the general fund budget. In fact, after the first few years, I think we'll begin to see a decrease in the amount of money required to keep the police department with a fully functioning police vehicle fleet, and hopefully if we move forward with this, we might consider bringing other departments on as well. I'm going to give these gentlemen opportunity who've been working real closely together to put this plan together, an opportunity to give you a presentation. But every time one of you have asked how we're doing on vehicles, I've been honest with you. I've told you that we were making do, and that we're always conscientious of the needs of the rest of the city and the other city departments, but that I would let you know when that wasn't the case anymore and we need to do something differently, and I think we're to that point. And rather than just bring a problem to you, I'm bringing a solution. So here's some things I'd like for you to consider as we jump into this conversation. As of today, we have 4 vehicles with yearly maintenance costs that exceed the value of those vehicles. 2 have cost us more than $25,000 each to date in maintenance expenses. We have 8 vehicles currently in patrol service with over 120,000 miles, and if you factor in the idle time, that's about 400,000 operating miles that doesn't show up on the odometer. We have more than a dozen vehicles in the fleet that are over 15 years old, approximately 30 that are over 10 years old, and 1 that's been in service for 28 years. And we spent almost $600,000 last year alone to replace 8 patrol vehicles. And the plan that we're going to present to you tonight will replace 60 in the first year. This program will also create a definitive path for us to expand our fleet that will allow us to fully realize our take-home vehicle program with no additional impact to the overall budget. And as I've explained in the past, giving officers their own take-home vehicle, it has many benefits to it. One being that the fleet will be dispersed over a much larger area, so we'll have minimal damage from things like storm-related issues and trying to find places to park the cars when we have undercover, when we have a storm come through, won't be as big of an issue. It's greatly going to improve officer morale and officer retention. One of the most common complaints that I hear from our officers, and I met with every single one of them face-to-face, one-on-one in the first 3 or 4 months of the year, one of the common complaints was not having enough decent vehicles to patrol in, and that's because we're having to hot seek them from one shift to the next. We actually recently lost a very good police officer to a smaller agency, and when I did the exit interview with him, one of the things that he cited as his reason for leaving is that the agency was able to provide and guarantee him his own vehicle, his own take-home vehicle. And I'm sure that there's others who have left or are considering leaving for other agencies that either pay more or potentially pay less, and this being one of the reasons that they would cite for leaving. And the amount of money that we invest in hiring and training this officer alone, and we'll have to invest in hiring and training his replacement, would have paid for half of the year one expenses for this program that we're proposing. So we know that officers who assign their own vehicles, they just take better care of them, and that increases their resale value, which will come into play with this leasing program. This is also going to put more highly visible marked units out into our community. With this program and its well-timed replacement schedule, which we will stay on top of, we just hired a highly qualified fleet manager from one of our local dealerships, car dealerships actually, to help us manage this. We're going to be able to modernize our fleet with a continual supply of newer, safer vehicles, thereby reducing the total cost of operation by lowering fuel costs, lowering maintenance costs, and reducing emissions. When combined with extended warranties, our yearly costs will become much more predictable and easier to budget for. As I said, I believe this fleet leasing program is financially sound. It's a responsible use of taxpayer dollars, allowing us to accomplish those things that are expected of us, and provides a long-term solution to our age-old problem of maintaining a police vehicle fleet. So I said I would keep this brief, and I would like to yield my time and introduce you to Mr. John Holland with Enterprise Fleet Leasing, along with Deputy Director Dan Dennis, my administrative director, who has also been working with Mr. Holland on this program.
Okay. Yes, sir. You recognize. Go ahead.
First, I'd like to thank y'all for the opportunity to come to the study session. I've been with Enterprise for 17 years, a little over 16. It's almost 17. And they've implemented this program with multiple municipalities, cities, colleges, universities. When I started our fleet management division in Oklahoma and Arkansas in 2008, 2009, Arkansas obviously was a little further away from Oklahoma City, so traveling over made it more difficult to do that. I actually moved about an hour away from here on Lake Eufaula not too long ago, so my key area that I focus on now is Arkansas. So much so that they tagged my vehicle Arkansas. So I guess that's just to help me not get pulled over as much. But we'll go ahead and start through, or at all. That would be a better way to put that. Just some of the references that we have for cities that have done this program, have done it for a while. City of Little Rock is probably our largest one, obviously. With over 150 vehicles, they're doing not only their PD fleet, but their white fleet as well. City of Bryant does a lot of vehicles with us. A couple of the cities that we're partnered with have done more of a PD-only fleet, which is what you guys have. We're looking at this point. The key difference that I can say based on those other cities who have done this PD-only, City of Fort Smith have admin and pursuit or patrol type vehicles, and it's a very nice split. And so when we get a little bit further into the introduction of this program, you'll understand more why that is so important to not only a cost-effective program, but one that will yield cost savings over time. I put some of the cities on there, but really, I put some of the local businesses that we also do business with, Pruitt Tools in Fort Smith, so we've worked with them for more than a decade, or just to name a few. So cities are able to utilize a piggyback off of one of our purchasing awarded contracts. Sourcewell has been the number one that I've used for all cities that I've partnered with, both Oklahoma and Arkansas. The last Arkansas one that we've partnered with was City of Centerton. Before that was Harrison, and we have 2 counties that came on over the last 4 to 5 months. What's the difference between Enterprise and doing it yourself or doing it with the help of a dealership? We are a company, family owned, that has grown by providing local client strategy managers. So you would actually be assigned a client strategy manager That's not only going to help you get the vehicles in the beginning, we're going to work through the whole process. We're not just going to deliver a vehicle and say, see you in 5 years. We're going to work through that process, make sure that we're bringing proper data, because some vehicles that are not fully upfit could make sense to replace on a more regular basis, 2 to 3 years versus 5 or 6. So we're going to have that on person who's coming out 3 to 4 times a year, making fleet recommendations based on the data that we're collecting on the fleet, and making sure that we're adhering to that lowest cost of ownership. When it comes to vehicles, 65 plus years of doing this, we've built the infrastructure to do it extremely well. The key components, acquisition, funding, maintenance and fuel, and then vehicle resale is really kind of, I guess, to put it lightly, or put it bluntly, that's what we do extremely well. A lot of cities will look at other things, telematics, driver safety programs, and so forth, but we'll hit on those key areas. As the chief had spoke to, every vehicle does have an effective vehicle life cycle where we see that trend of additional maintenance cost, lower fuel economy, vehicle resale going down. So ultimately, we help pinpoint that sweet spot to replace that vehicle. For patrol pursuit type vehicles, we're probably looking around 5 to 6 years or under 100,000 miles. Anything that is a little less upfit would be looked at on a routine basis where we're able to determine where the best point to get rid of that vehicle would be. So the number one question or concern, and we can pause at this point if there's any questions from you, the open-ended equity lease. Most people hear the word lease, they start thinking that there's going to be the traditional mileage parameters, the traditional penalties for going over those restrictions. There's no mileage penalties, no wear and tear, and the city would retain all equity at the end. So if I take a $50,000 vehicle, I run it down to a $10,000 balance, that's what classifies it as an operating or capital lease. At the end, when I sell that vehicle for $20,000, for example's sake, the city would retain $10,000 of equity coming back to them.
Okay. Any questions at this point?
Oh, no, go ahead and finish.
Okay, perfect. One of the other areas that we find that we can have an impact, we have a budgeted maintenance program for all non-pursuit type vehicles that we will fully budget all maintenance repairs. We handle all that process. It covers everything from an oil change to an engine replacement. On the actual pursuit fleet and in the existing fleet as well, we're going to put a maintenance management. We were able to start tracking all that data, knowing exactly what these vehicles are costing to maintain. And so next year and the next year, we'll be able to bring recommendations on which vehicles have cost the city the most, which vehicles make sense to replace from a resale standpoint. And so we'll have a lot more data to be able to give you more in-depth information on which vehicles make the most sense to replace. Fuel is another area of opportunity where we can start capturing more data. And if you kind of see the trend of where everything's going, the more data Enterprise has, the better recommendations that we can actually provide, and the more efficient we are with lowering that cost of ownership and putting the city of Fort Smith in a better place financially down the road. And then really the key component where we differ from anyone else, we operate around 2.4 million vehicles. We sell about 1.1 of those every year. And so whenever you think about that, Enterprise is probably one of the largest sellers of vehicles in the U.S. We do not sell them directly to auctions. We would hand sell all vehicles through our processes. And what that means for our clients is that we're bringing in 15 to 20% better than book value on average. So we're adding more money on the back end to make the cost of ownership better for you and better to cycle vehicles at certain points. And then all this obviously comes with a bunch of data, a lot of different computer softwares. Kenneth would probably say that this is probably where we can benefit. the most as far as what the ability to pull reports, understand exactly what your fleet is doing, but it also puts the drivers with reminders to make sure that they're getting their oil changes and so forth. But again, data-driven gives us a lot of ammunition to make sure that we're doing these vehicles at the right possible time. So we'll jump into the fleet profile analysis to kind of give everybody an idea of where the fleet is at today, and we'll run through that. About 150 vehicles in the fleet, estimated value without seeing a single one of them of about $2 million, just based on age and mileage and what our data would tell us. The key components, 43 vehicles over 10 years. If we looked at average annual acquisitions of around 10, we're holding them around 15 years a time. So what that's telling us instantly is that we're spending a lot more on maintenance and fuel than we should be, and we've lost all the resale value on these vehicles when they're time to dispose of them. Not a huge difference. I mean, mostly we're looking at SUVs, cars, and a few trucks. When we looked at this, and again, working with it with Kenneth, there's just an unbelievable way of looking at this and saying, hey, there's an opportunity for us to replace vehicles with the right type of vehicles, which allows us to bring better resale at the end. And so looking at this, there's going to be a shift in what types of vehicles we're buying to make sure that we're optimizing the return at the end of it. And we'll speak a little bit more when we're talking through the model. And then this is just an overview when we first started looking at this, just giving ourselves an idea where the cents per mile was at. This was probably November-ish when we looked at this, so the fuel per gallon or the fuel cost per gallon went down a little bit. Fingers crossed it stays there for a little bit. But it gives us a good idea where our starting point is and where we need to try to get down. I would imagine that this fleet should operate around 57 or 58 cents a mile if we effectively put in the right steps. And here's the right steps. So looking at this model, I won't go through it line by line, but what it's basically telling us to do is to take the 149 vehicles that we've been discussing that are driving annually about 13.5 across the board. We're going to take the current maintenance of around 280, and we're going to look at that in a proposed cycle of about 5-year rotation. Based on the data that we have, proposed maintenance should drop to about $60 per month, and then we'll start seeing some reductions. So in year one, we take the 140, the orange line that's up there, we take the 149 vehicles. I'm sorry, this is y'all's data, 149, purchasing them for about $990 for the 18 vehicles that you annually purchased. If we were to look at this, spending about $1 million in that first year, $500,000 in maintenance, $700,000 in fuel, and then you're selling 18 vehicles that are the worst ones in the fleet, so they're not bringing much back. So fleet budget is about $2.2 million. Whenever we look at year 2025, we have 149 vehicles. We're replacing 60. You'll still have 89 to owned. The lease payments are around $751,000. We're putting down payments on the aftermarket of 50% of the down, or 50% of the aftermarket we're paying down up front. So that equipment's not killing you year over year over year. That gives us a total capital outlay of $976. Maintenance, we now have 60 brand new vehicles that are going to need oil changes and tire rotations. And so you'll see your maintenance drop, and then you'll see a pretty big spike of resale because you're selling off 60 of your units, which not only gets rid of the oldest ones, but it's starting to get into that sweet spot of where the vehicles sell the best. And so you'll see that perk up a little bit. Going through this whole process, yes, you'll see some negative years where we're spending more, but more than anything, we're seeing positive years. About a 10-year savings of $1.8 million, average sustainable of $24,000 a year. This is what I consider a wash program where it does not cost you any money. I do think that there's some savings to it, but this is allowing the city to move from 10 years to 5 years on a normal cycle. And then, as he mentioned, the benefits that I'm not speaking of is the employee morale, making sure that these vehicles are in good working order and keeping our officers safe.
Okay, thank you. It just, Chief, go ahead and continue.
Just to add to some of the things that he said and expound on, the type of vehicle that we're looking at going to is a quad cab 4-wheel drive pickup, which the resale value is much better than any other vehicle on the road right now. I mean, I'm sure a question on everybody's mind is how much, and with the 60 vehicles, I think we're looking right at $1 million.
976.
Huh?
976.
Yeah, right at $1 million in year one. We have that in our budget. You give us the $1 million every year for small equipment. And quite frankly, that's been being used primarily for vehicles. If we do this, I will have to go back to the drawing board on our capital improvement or plan or strategic spending plan, but I intend to do that anyway. As you know, I intend to ask for employee raises for the police officers, so that's going to require me readdressing some of the things that we have said that we were going to spend and how we were going to do that spending. But I say all to say it's not going to be any additional money out of the general fund budget than we've already been budgeted for 2026 for year one. And we're going to be looking at increasing the size of our fleet so we can get more vehicles out there and officers in those vehicles. But outside of that, any questions about the program itself or concerns?
Okay. Director Christina Savage.
Will this negate the need for the Crane Kia building?
Say the first part again.
So will this negate the need for the Crane Kia building? Was that the intention of buying it, was to do our maintenance and things there?
Well, there's actually two separate properties there, and we have the second precinct and train facility that we're still working on, but then the other property was intended to be a fleet maintenance, citywide fleet maintenance.
Okay, so citywide, not just for the police. Okay.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Director Kemp.
Thank you for the clarification on the Crane Kia, because I was definitely with Director Christina Casavas about, is this going to, we have this property with the garage, or would the repairs be done there? The other one is this something you've been wanting to do for years, and what brings it to this timing now? It sounds like a good idea, listening to it, but is this an idea you've thought of before, or did you have hesitations before, and now you have a viewpoint that made you to move on this now?
We've actually approached the board a couple of times over the last 10 or 15 years. Did you say the last time was 2017? It just, it's this endless cycle. We buy vehicles, we get them in the fleet, we feel like we're in a good spot, and then other needs in the city come up, other spending priorities, and so, like I said, the police department is always conscientious of that. We try to make do with what we have and maybe not say something when we should, but when we start getting vehicles that have 10 years on them, approaching that 10-year mark, and they start having serious maintenance issues, we have 1 or 2 or 3 police cars go down that are in the shop. That affects all the rest of them, because now all the other vehicles are getting even more of a load on them because, again, they're having to hot seat them. And so it's just like this vicious cycle, and then we come back to you asking for a big spend to buy 8 or 10 vehicles to get us back to where we were, and we're just continually staving off the inevitable, and it seems like this is the best solution to that. And everybody I've talked to, there's a few exceptions. There's some places that have done it and gone back to buying, but they have a lot more free money available to do that. And their situations are a little bit different than ours as well. But for the most part, everybody I've talked to, including the chief at Little Rock, they say it's a great thing. It really takes a lot of the need to constantly be, trying to jockey these vehicles around and figure out how we're going to, buy one here, buy one there. And that's the other thing about this program is they deliver the vehicles fully upfit. And so, we're not going to have to be constantly struggling with that, trying to get vehicles shipped, looking for vehicles. That's been a challenge for us. I mean, they can find them all over the nation and deliver them. We're kind of limited a lot of times and even having a vehicle available to purchase. So there's just so many things that seem like, at this point in time, especially when we're talking, being hyper focused on budgets and that sort of thing. It seemed like the time was right to make another run at it.
I think I like the predictable cost factor, which still allows for policing and all the things of that nature. Are there downsides? Is there cons to this idea from your vantage point? Obviously, the pros may still outweigh the cons, but are there cons?
Well,
I'll give you.
he's here. I'll let you talk to the guy that's actually had the lease program in his previous.
Thank you.
So I've worked for 2 agencies that did enterprise leasing. The only downside I know of is you never own the vehicles. If you want to own them, then you do never own them. There is a possibility of buying them out at the end of the lease if you want to, but in practice, I'm not a fan of owning depreciating assets anyway. So there's some advantage to that. We went through this exact thing back in Texas. This exact thing of the aging fleet, the constant when it comes time to buy cars, it's, hey, we're going to go on this fleet replacement program. We're going to have it funded. We'll have cars every year, and then the next year comes and it's like, we're going to have to cut a few cars because we've got this other competing priority this year. The advantage to this approach is that you're not paying obviously full price for the cars in a given year, and you're also not paying for the residual value of the vehicle either. So you have the ability to leverage your funds and your money just goes a lot further. I talked to a lot of folks in Arkansas because I wanted to be sure that I've seen this work very well in Texas, but I wanted to be sure that there weren't some pitfalls or something that I didn't know about Arkansas that might be a stumbling block. I haven't got anything but positive reviews. In fact, as the chief was saying, there's folks that I know one place that's moved away from them, but they said it sounds like it'd be a good fit for you. It just isn't a good fit for us now that our circumstances have changed. I reached out to the city manager of the city where I used to work, and they are currently on an enterprise lease, and her words were, it's a game changer. She said, we just don't worry about vehicles anymore. We have our quarterly meetings with them. They tell us, hey, this vehicle should go right now because the market for this vehicle is particularly strong, and you'll get the best possible resale value, even though you're only 18 months, 2 years, 3 years into this vehicle. We say go ahead and get rid of it now. Also because there is a corresponding replacement that has got really strong rebates right now. So we say that's the stuff we can't do ourselves. That's the stuff that they come in and they say, this manufacturer's offering great rebates on this particular vehicle that it's a great match for the vehicle that actually our data tells us is selling really well on the secondary market right now. So if I could do it myself, I would, but.
Okay. Director Neil Martin and then Director Settle.
Could you define hot seat for me, please?
I can. So that's one officer taking a vehicle from another officer.
Okay,
so,
I pull in at 7 a.m.,
Yep.
I give it to somebody else. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. What was the reasoning the board, and I'm looking at Kevin because he's the one that's been here for the longest. What was the reasoning that the board chose not to move forward?
Sure.
Do you recall that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, every time we look at the math, it's always the cost at the end of the day ends up cost. Leasing what we looked at the previous, maybe it's different today, but in the previous, a long term it costs you more to lease than it would to buy. But by leasing, to Chief Baker's point, you're setting those vehicles there on a permanent basis. So if I read the math here, it's looked like $1.86 million a year would be in vehicles every year going from year 6 on, right? The lease number 1.668. But 1866. Yeah.
Yeah, 1866.
Yeah. So
Now,
that is going to be your lease payment for this, and then after 10 years negotiate. So it always, is, if you went the other route, would you save money? But then to what's been said is, hey, budget's tight, let's pull vehicles back. So that's been a give and take on this. We've leased, we went the route in the sanitation department leasing, and then we pulled back. So it depends where it is, and if I say anything wrong, please speak. But that's kind of what I was looking at is you're going to pay $751 the first year, and by year 5 you're going to be $1.866 million per year. But then at that point, you get a new vehicle every 5 or 6 years.
You'll also have revenues coming back in from the sale of the vehicles.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that's the other column on the far right, right?
So, and to that point, the resale, that amount comes back to the city? Because it's really Enterprise that owns it, right?
Yes, the equity comes back to the city.
The equity comes
That
back?
tells the equity that number is.
That's interesting.
Right, sorry.
Is that the net cash line on the very right-hand side?
I don't have that in front
Okay,
of me.
so you're saying at the end of, in 10 years, you would net $1.795 million?
So Andy had some questions as well, and I mean, we've had him, walking with us on this, and I think all of his concerns were abated. But one of the things that we have discussed is creating a specific fund for this, so that.
Sinking fund?
But within the department, the city budget, so all of the transactions take place in and out of that particular fund, and which will make it easier. I mean, if we're successful, and it's a good thing. If we want to get more departments on board with some of their fleets, then that'll already be established.
So what would the budget look like here? Would it? I mean, when we go to do the 2025 budget, what's that line item for fleets? Because would we say or what would be the line item for this lease? Would it be 751, 796, or would it be something that comes, the over on the right hand side?
So they would get
961.
yeah,
It's essentially $1 million.
it'd be the same.
So that'd be the line item, but we're getting rebates on the other end of it, right?
Yeah, that'll start, it'll be a year or two before that we start seeing that. Like I said, we're wanting to increase the fleet size, so we're going to be hanging on to some vehicles that we could sell, but number one, we've just bought several new vehicles, really no reason to get rid of them. Right. We have other funds available that we can combine with that $1 million. We have funds that are earmarked from the courts specifically for police vehicles, and so I mean we can absorb this. Okay. We can absorb this without there being a big increase on the general fund budget.
Okay, and you think that fuel cost that would be your fuel cost regardless if we went with this or not? Is that what's that?
It'll go down to some. I mean, just because
newer cars are going to be more fuel efficient.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Director, so will you finish?
No, I got a question.
Go right ahead.
So, how does insurance cover this? That's where I'm going to do. Are we still covering a municipal league, or is it
same way?
Same way,
Exactly.
Insurance same way.
Yes.
An accident happens, it's all the same way.
Yes.
And has that been vetted through the municipal league to make sure that's covered?
Well,
Ann Creek Killer is who I've been dealing with on that, and she's vetted that through.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, and as I mentioned, there are other cities in the state that are participating in this program that also are AML participants.
Centerton was with the AML.
Okay. Director Christina Savage.
My question was about insurance, so Director Settle already asked it.
Director Neil Martin.
Are these all gas or any of these electric?
No electric.
Okay.
Really, it's whatever we want to buy.
It is whatever.
Okay.
No electric.
Okay.
None of this is locked into a specific make, model, or anything else.
Okay.
It's what suits our needs.
Okay.
We'll do a complete analysis of what we want to buy and what we want to sell.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. That's. Thank you.
Mr. Dingman.
No, I would say, from my perspective, we have had these discussions in the past, and part of part of, I think, what ended, I mean, I think we got really close in 2017 to considering this on a citywide basis even. But I think one of the reasons that it ended up not going was because of the unknown, and the point that Mr. Dennis made was that you don't own the vehicles at, typically at the end. And so, the fear, I suppose, was, well, what if we want to get out of this? We don't own any vehicles. Well, the program is supposed to, I mean, and one of the things that I see as a positive for this discussion is that, frankly, Dan has been involved in an agency that owned its vehicles and went through this process to start up the leasing program. I mean, and he's one of our guys that has been through this before and has seen the positive results for it. And so that's made me interested in following through on it. And the other part of it is in some of our enterprise funds, particularly solid waste and streets, we've had the ability to fund sinking funds for equipment replacement, and that is not going to be a possibility in the general fund or the police department. The general fund departments, police, fire, parks are not revenue generating. We don't have the ability to front end load the funding needed to start a sinking fund for the pretty intensive equipment needs that the police department has. And so this is a way to accomplish that objective with, on a prescribed basis that makes use of the dollars that we're already budgeting in the police department.
Right. So, did you have a further comment?
Yeah, I got one question. If the price of cars goes up, does the lease payment go up?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the key points. One of the key points that I was thinking the whole time you were talking about mathematically. 2017, these cars cost $35,000 or $40,000.
Well, that's my next question. If the price goes down, does the lease go down?
Yeah. I mean, so whenever we set this in, it's a fixed cost throughout the life of that term. So if we buy a $60,000 vehicle fully upfit, that's what we're depreciating, and that's the lease payment. So that's.
But let's say in 2 years the cost goes down 15%. With future cars at that point,
future cars, yes.
But the ones you've already purchased does not.
Those are we purchased
Said already. I get that, but if you continue on, so if the price goes down 15-20%, the price goes up 15-20%, you're going to ebb and flow each year depending on that cost.
Absolutely, and I think that's where we're heading as the rebound. Just for example, the Durango Pursuit was a $3,000 incentive last year. It's moved to a $6,000 incentive. So these things are getting better post-COVID. So these manufacturers are producing vehicles at a better rate. The one thing that I think from 2017 till now, and I didn't present it the last time, one of my counterparts had, maintenance costs have drastically went up across all fleets, and it's because of the lack of parts, the lack of mechanics. And so that's one of the areas that I can see just looking at this analysis, and it's a model. Things can change with every part of it. But maintenance is going to drastically go down. You're going to have 60 new vehicles in that first year that will need oil changes and tire rotations, and they're replacing vehicles that need engines and transmissions.
So if we turn those police vehicles back to enterprise to sell, do you all sell them as used police vehicles, or do you strip all the police out and sell them as XYZ cars?
Current process is we would bring them back to a regular vehicle. What's in the works is working through enough vendors that sell these vehicles as complete vehicles to increase the resale side of it. A lot of this equipment should be able to be moved. A good portion of the equipment that's on the vehicles could be moved from vehicles to vehicles.
Or to another city that maybe only needs 1 or 2 vehicles in a smaller community or something like that.
My hopes is we've been running the same equipment, the aftermarket, the upfit, the police lights, sirens, and all that for 10 years plus. If we're replacing this every 5 years, would it make sense to replace that or move that equipment from one to another or not? And that's where we'll bring the data.
Okay, thank you.
Danny, Mayor, I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
If the board approves this, how soon would you want to implement this plan?
January 1.
January 1.
Mm-hmm. We need to actually, and that was part of the urgency of this is, we can go ahead and put the order in if we believe we're going to be able to move forward with this. We won't have to pay anything till they're delivered, but because of the availability of vehicles, we need to get a jump start on it.
When's our budget hearings? October, November? When do we have our budget hearings?
It will be probably in the early part of November.
But we could bring this to the board,
Yeah.
enacting that we do this and have a vote of the board, so Danny would have direction.
So you could you could go ahead and order the trucks as soon as the board approves this.
That kind of what you're recommending?
Yeah, it's about to open up to order. I mean, we would basically be, I guess, reserving them in a way. I don't think we would be obligated to buy them if you came back and said no.
But from now until then, are we still okay car-wise?
Well, we're making do.
I mean, I know we lost some making do.
We're about to potentially lose several more to state police. So, but I mean, the vehicle, as I said, the vehicle situation is a constant battle.
Yeah, I know, always
it's a
has
constant
been.
struggle. So,
Okay. All right, Danny. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any more questions for the chief?
Jeff, do you need a motion to put this on a
For
future
Tuesday
agenda?
night.
To
Resolution. Yeah.
Will it be the board approve?
Contract back, obviously.
It doesn't have to be as soon as Tuesday.
Yeah, no.
As quick, as soon as possible.
Yeah, bring it back as soon as possible. I'm good with that.
Okay, all right. Any other discussions? Any other discussions for the chief? Okay, thank you, chief.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Chief.
Thanks.
What are we going to do about this, Mandy? You know,
If you have not, take a minute to review the preliminary agenda for August the 19th. Okay, if there are no questions on that, this time we'll go to the citizens forum. Madam Clerk.
Yes, first we have Charlie Hartsfield.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Came through and just kind of ripped out all the stuff.
Yes, sir.
And
All the stuff.
well, the little
playground?
slide, the little wiggly
Okay.
horse,
Playground
all the
equipment.
Yeah,
steps,
playground equipment.
it's all that stuff's all gone.
Yeah.
And normally there's 3 or 4 or 5 kids in there playing on a nice evening. Well, we've got this big scar just of mud. Well, it's not mud, it's clay. It's Arkansas stuff. So, and I was looking at it last night with a neighbor. She said it's just stupid. That's her word. But it seems like from our viewpoint, you wait till you're able to put the stuff in before you take all this
We
stuff
take it out, that's right.
You know, so there's been nothing to play on for 3 months. It just seems foolish.
Well, what happened there, Jeff?
That park is being renovated.
I know, but why the time lapse? Like Ms. Garfield said.
I can't speak to that other than just staff time to get the new stuff installed. I don't know for a fact that we have the new equipment in. I think that it is anticipated if it's not, but it's anticipated to be completed this fall.
Well, but you could have left all the good little
Yeah, you're right.
10-year-old things in there until it's time to go.
Yeah, you're right, Ms. Garfield.
So, anyway. And I don't know, this is the question, is the, because I don't go by there, are the slides up that we bought?
Yeah.
They're up and working?
No.
What
they're
slides
not.
you talking about?
At the water park.
No, they're not up.
They're not up yet? We spent all that money. Summer's going to be over. What happened?
The way I understand it, they won't be up in 25.
So it's laying there. $4 million in the bank would have drawn interest instead of
That's right.
laying on the ground.
That's right.
Do you,
I don't know.
does somebody have an update on the timing on that?
No, the design for that is nearing completion, and then when that's complete, there will be a bid process.
Well, it just doesn't make sense to the citizens because it just didn't make, there's a reason for it, I'm sure, but it just doesn't look right. That's a lot of money on the ground out there.
Jeff, to the gentleman's comment, also, we still have a lot of that money drawing interest, hopefully, don't we?
That's true, yes.
So just that I know I'm with you, but I'm saying we are.
And the money hasn't-
hopefully
the money
we
hasn't
still have a
been
lot to pay out
outlaid
on
yet.
it. Yeah.
So we carried over quite how much of that?
I don't know what
was
the
like $3
carryover was.
million?
I think we still have 1.6 or 1.7 that's not been spent
Okay.
yet.
Okay. So that kind of helps.
Okay, that's all my comment.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Hartsfield, do you want the city to put out a press release about the park?
A what?
A press release telling the people up there what's happening, or?
In Hillcrest?
Yeah, Josh, where's Josh?
Well, the neighborhood got a sheet with it, supposed the reasons, is there's a groundwater, there's a clay, there's a
Yeah.
soft, how hard, when do you pour the concrete?
Yeah.
But you'd think that just leave the stuff there until the ground's ready.
Well, I agree.
That's just there's about a 20 square block area that people come in out of there.
Yeah.
And I think you've allotted $400 million, no, $400,000 for upgrade for that little park.
I'd have to look
That's
at
a
that.
lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. I heard that about 3 months ago.
I think we'd have to go back and look at the CIP. That sounds like a lot
Yeah.
for that little park.
Okay.
Maybe tell us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hartsfield.
Next, we have Donald Moon.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's not here.
Okay. Andy Postrick.
Hi, everybody. Andy Postrick. I love living in Fort Smith because of the traditional development patterns. That's not the first time I've talked to you about them. And just to refresh your memory about what a traditional development pattern is, that's most of Fort Smith, basically like the whole northern half of the city is a traditional grid. And if you live in a neighborhood that would be described as cute, I think that that's really important that we protect and preserve those. And sometimes I talk about this and people think that I'm kind of radical. And Saturday morning I woke up thinking about parking and parking downtown, and not for or against the free parking or the meters, but I just posted a little a number of brief thoughts about that. And somebody replied to me, and her reply kind of stuck with me because really traditional development patterns are something that I don't think anybody here really got to appreciate fully, like maybe 2 or 3 generations got to. So I was just going to share her experience. And this is what she wrote. She said, "When I was growing up in the 1950s and 60s, it was a pleasure to walk downtown Fort Smith. Lots of fantastic shops and stores. But along came malls and shopping centers on the outskirts of town in ruined downtown shopping and walking. All the metered parking spots were full, and more people rode the buses just to shop, walking from store to store. Progress ruined Fort Smith's downtown. I haven't shopped or walked downtown since the late 1970s. I go downtown to the bank or to my lawyer, which are next to each other. Bring downtown back the way it was, and your revenue will increase." And I totally felt that when she spoke to that, because that's something that I've been trying to think about ways that we can improve not just our downtown, but all of our traditional development patterns. And Main Street Fort Smith, I think, is doing a great job, but they're also they're part of a national coalition of all these other cities that are also trying these same ideas. And I was hoping if I could get you guys to start thinking of your own radical ideas that other cities haven't tried yet. And I have an idea. It's high risk, high reward. It's not gonna make me cry if we don't do it. I'm developing a PowerPoint about it. But just to give you a brief synopsis, it would just be tweaking the way that we tax property downtown. Currently, we have the improved structure value and the land value, and they're taxed at that same millage rate. And some funny things will happen if you start tipping the scales and dropping the property tax value and raising the land tax value, and some really incredible things. If you go and dig up some historical newspapers, here in Fort Smith, Arkansas, we had a newspaper article about this. It's called the single tax, by the way. It's also called the perfect tax or the least bad tax. But we had a newspaper article about Vancouver, British Columbia, when they tried it. And according to the Fort Smith newspaper at the time, Vancouver's population doubled in only 3 years once they switched this taxation system. So I'm working on that, and some other states are trying to incorporate it. They're going about it the completely wrong way because they're starting out at the top up at the state government level. And I think we have to start at the business owner level, and then if they want it, talk to the bank downtown, make sure they want it, and then talk to y'all to see if you want it, and then up from there. But I would also I hope maybe some of you can think of some of your own ideas to come up with something that the other cities haven't tried to restore and uplift our traditional areas of town. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Andy.
Next, we have Crystal Cadelli.
I'm not used to sitting down. Good evening. I'd like to take this time to talk about the AMI water meters. I would like to express my concern regarding the adoption of the meters. There are numerous reasons why I believe investing in the AMI technology may not be prudent for the city. Various factors that, I have investigated and read about that could hinder its effectiveness, which is poor data quality caused by any weather-related debris, calibration issues, and communication problems stemming from weak signals. A notable example for this is Toronto, and I don't know if you guys have read about it, but they invested millions in the AMI meter systems, and they failed 8 or 9 years early, which then caused them multi-million dollars, and their residents had to pay back fees because their water bills were inaccurate as well.
Right.
Additionally, the operation costs of these meters would be, keeping them calibrated and cleaning them, which could be significant cost. In my view, it would be more beneficial to replace these existing meters that currently have the plastic housing, which seems to be what is creating them to be ineffective and causing the failures with water meters that do not have the plastic housing, which there are several options that are out there that can still be, chose from. And then all this could be replaced under $10 million for the whole city and would preserve the jobs for our current meter readers. This approach would also free up, at least $30+ million that could be allocated to replacing the leaking water lines and the aging infrastructure. We could proactively replace these water lines that we know are going to eventually leak. And then as well as upgrading our stormwater systems. It seems like we do have a lot of outdated stormwater systems, and I feel like there's no reason that we should allow properties just to sit vacant that could be used for commercial or residential needs that are not in floodplains. They're just being flooded because we have an aging infrastructure that we're not paying attention to. I just think that it's time that, we look at our priorities as a city and spend our money wisely and think about the future instead of just the now. And I think that, down the road, if we're prosperous and we get our city where we need to be revenue-wise, I don't think that it's wrong to try something different and try the AMI. I just don't think it is a safe, affordable approach at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Joe Elskin.
Oh, be better just to stand. I hope what I'm worried about is my concerns are unfounded, but, ounce of prevention. I hope that you all saw the article in Talk Business and Politics about the aquifer levels falling. And that just brought me to, yes, water is not a limitless resource. We are, as a growing city, we're going to be using more. AI uses more. Industry that we want to come in uses more. And agriculture is most of our income. I mean, poultry is nearly $8 billion. Rice, we supply half of the nation's use for rice. So our water supply up the aquifer that resources us resources a lot of small farmers, and so we can't depend upon other people having a water supply. And I am really concerned that your need for a source of income to balance out the expenses that we are looking at, particularly the consent decree, that need for money would mean that you would not look at the big picture. And the big picture is resources need to be comprehensively managed. And that is something that I know the state is doing, but I think we need to do. We need to look at being very careful about our use of our sources, our resources. And water is, uncontaminated water. Because the flooding does contaminate the aquifers. So, we're looking at what could be a real problem for us, and I would desperately hope you would not sell a lot of water to the Franklin prison. I hope that is totally an unfounded concern.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's all that signed in.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will go into a special meeting. Do we need to adjourn this meeting? Okay. This time, we need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Take 5 minutes and. Yes. Yeah. I am. I'm getting ready to call a special meeting. Yeah. He's not leaving.
I know.
Yeah. I kind of let him have 5 minutes.
Scared I'm going to run off? Yeah. My keys is over. He really
Take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes.
Sure is. I've never seen him get so early. Where's Neil?
To those in the room, the board will stay in this room, and everyone else will need to adjourn. Well, after when they go into a special meeting, there will be an executive session as part of that. In here, and then the planning commission is done. I see the planning people are in here, so yes. So everyone that's in the audience and staff will go into the larger room. The board and whoever they need in here for the executive session can stay. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes.
What would you?
The board, we need to start the meeting up and then call your executive session, and then everybody else will leave, and you all can stay in here.
If we're going to stay in here, is Josh going to manage to make sure that the camera is off?
Josh will make sure things happen appropriately.
All right.
Special meeting. Okay, at this time, we're going to call a special meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director Rigo,
Here.
Here. Here.
George Katsavas, Christina Katsavas, Settle,
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we will ask if there's any item of business of any board member that's not already on the agenda. Okay, seeing none at this time, we're going to go into an executive session to discuss the appointment of an internal auditor. Martin Museum. Yeah. Are you ready? You can make it. You can make it. Okay. I'll say something and then you can make the motion. Okay. At this time, we're going to reconvene, and I think we have a motion from Director Kemp to be made. Director Kemp, you recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Amanda Strange, Director of Internal Audit, pending a finalization of employment agreement, resolution affirming appointment and agreement on the September 2nd regular meeting.
Okay, thank you. We need a second.
Second.
Okay. Madam Clerk, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Directors Rigo,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Christina Katsavas, Settle,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passes 5 in favor.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business to come before the board?
Just one reminder for August the 22nd, we do have our strategic workshop scheduled. It's a Friday. It'll be at the Regions Bank Building at 524 Garrison on the 7th floor at 8:30 in the morning.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? If not, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. They got a cool spot up there, man. Yeah, on the top floor. Yeah, storm place. Huh? It's still up there.